share just a little bit of something about what happened in Africa. And I said, well, I think what I may do is just give a testimony and then give some points, some principles with it, the things that I discovered and things that actually are happening with Annette and I that are along the line of just faithfulness and seed planting and patience and just staying with the task. So I came up with about 4 or 5 points, and probably the big one to open the door would be never underestimate a small door.
Wow.
You know, don't underestimate a small opportunity. Door is an opportunity. Because what happened with this last trip we went on, you know, we've been working in Africa cumulatively for at least 14 years. We've been going back and forth. We've done a lot of work there, a lot of mentoring. We had a school at one point. We had a children's home at one point. We were doing a lot of leadership development, church planting, forging into places where missionaries had never gone, and it was wild, man. I'm sharing some stuff that we've done. It was wild. Some of it was scary, and it was hard, and it was expensive, and it was tiring, and it was frustrating. You know, and it was. And people always ask, "Well, how was it?" And I always give them, I say, it was good, it was bad, and it was pretty ugly.
Yeah,
you know?
there you go.
It was glorious, and it was just absolutely disgusting. You know, there's everything in between. But anyway, you know, we had spent a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort, and we learned a lot and experienced a lot. But our associate died 4 years ago, and we had been building with this person. We had been working and gathered up a bunch of young children, and you know, it was happening. You know, our ministry in Africa was happening, and then our dear associate died. And it was a real slug in the stomach, you know. It was just a real knockout punch to some extent. And I looked at that and I pulled back, and I didn't catch an attitude or anything, but I kind of had to pull way back and look at it from a perspective of, okay, we did it, we were faithful, and it's God's. And He'll be the one that determines what comes out of it. If anything comes out of it, if it doesn't, then we help a bunch of people, and now we're on to the next thing. And I get a phone call from my mentor, Dr. Dan Duke, who's my spiritual father. And he says, there's a guy who needs some help in Africa. And he says, you're the first guy I thought of. Could be a door showing up here, you know, a small door. He says, now he's the man, he's got things going, but his team, he needs a team, and he's having trouble, and he's got a bunch of money on the line, and they're getting ready to do these conferences, but he needs somebody to help him. And, you know, I saw it as a small door. I also saw it as this is a father figure requesting help. And I kind of took it as kind of like a, you know, well, you called me first, you know, but whatever that means. You know, whatever that means.
It does mean something.
It does mean something.
So important.
You know, you're not going to be shocked when you land.
Sun's growing up.
Yeah. So anyway, so Annette jumped on the train, and Barbara jumped on the train, and we joined these guys, and we were able to be a part of something that was so fantastic.
Wow.
And so incredible.
Wow.
And so fulfilling, because all of our prior excursions were just grinded out, man. I mean, and, you know, they were grueling and you know, exhausting and frustrating, and you get the point, right? So we got to sit back and we got to work with a group of Africans that has totally restored my faith in Africans.
In Africans, yeah.
I have never worked with such people that have such integrity and really have a love for the scriptures. You know, we've been scammed and lied to and everything in between. Not that we mind it, because it just goes with the territory. But anyway, the Lord had set something up there for us to just open and walk with. And I saw it as, well, I'll go and I'll help this guy simply because someone asked me, and I know I can do it, and I can, you know, I have the means to do it, and I can do it. But God kind of bushwhacked us there, you know, with a surprise that was so far beyond anything we could ever imagine. And so the first point I wanted to make was, don't underestimate a small door.
Amen.
A door's a door, and a little door can have a whole lot of stuff behind it. What was the show that we used to watch?
Price is Right.
Oh, The Price is Right.
Love
it. You pick the door, you know, and you don't know what's behind the door.
Let's make a deal.
Let's make, yeah.
Yeah, let's make a deal.
You know, you just pick it. And then the second point that that really drove something home for me was, don't pass up an opportunity to serve. The first night of the first meeting, the first conference, was just explosive. And the team leader, he was just sitting there with his mouth open. He's like, what have we stepped into? You know, because all the preparation, and he's thinking, I'm scraping up a couple guys here to come and help me preach, and I'm telling you, the place just exploded. And we went for the breakthrough the very first night and prayed for the entire stadium. Not one stadium, it was a big building. And later in the room, he was in amazement. And he goes, Greg, tell me how you want to do this thing. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm just serving you. So what started out to be just serving somebody, I'm now requested to sit on an international board of directors for 2 organizations. And it's like, how'd that happen? You know? All I did was show up with a suitcase and a Bible, and
That's all you had to do.
you know?
Yeah.
Now,
Big God. Yeah.
you know, the previous thing was, thank you for the patience thing, because for the last 4 years, I've just been hearing the Lord say, you planted seed, and there's a lot of seed in the ground. And just, you got to have faith that the seed is there. You know, we're wondering where are the kids that we were helping, you know, some that we are helping, they're not where we want them to be, but we've got them stuck in a certain, you know, and things are kind of, they're not the way I want them to be, you know, but the Lord's saying, that's all right, you planted a seed, and it's in the ground, and it's going to come forward, and it's going to bear fruit. And, you know, an opportunity to serve can turn into something way beyond our imagination. And I just sat there and told the brother, I said, I don't want to do anything. I said, I'm not even going to make any decisions right here. I'm just serving. And he's like, no, you need to help me with this thing, man. I need your help, you know? So it was kind of fun to sit back and let somebody else do all the logistical things. You know? But we know we want to be a part of it. And the third point would be this. Honor the relationships that God's bringing into your life. We stepped into that. I hadn't met the gentleman, the guy you remember the meeting we went to, and I prophesied to the guy laying on the floor? That was the guy.
Come on.
We never saw each other face to face. He was down in the spirit, and I was prophesying to him, and he's all like, yeah, amen, amen. So, but we never had any conversation together. We met on the floor, you know, of a damn new revival meeting.
Where everybody ends up on the floor.
Where everybody...
More than one.
But here's the refreshing thing. Relationships, God uses the relationships. And, you know, I learned now to perk up when new relationships start coming into my life. Or people start moving into the periphery of, what's happening here, and instead of just maybe getting a biased point of view of, it looks kind of strange. Well, I look strange. We're all, come on.
Yeah, come on.
We're all strange.
That's for strange people.
Like Willie Nelson says, no one's normal. You know?
Yes.
Who gets to determine what normal is? You know, it's just us. But yeah, relationships are so key, and we really have to walk with a sense of honor towards each other in the kingdom work. You know, it's easy to try to get in there. You can get in there and you want to work your angle, you know, and have your own, you know, your own agenda and things like that. But when God's ordering things and we're honoring each other, you know, He's the one that gets the glory.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then it's amazing. I get to sit down with this gentleman who's a bishop of 270 churches, who now has extended his hand to bring me into his organization, give me access to everything that he's doing. And all I did was just show up with the Bible and preach the gospel to some faithful leaders that he's been nurturing over the years, you know. So as we connect and do things together and relate together on things, it's important that we honor each other and we respect each other. Because God is bringing people into our life to prosper us, to add to us, to impart to us. And we need to honor that. Another thing that happened was an experience that I'm going to call principles transcend culture. We took a trip. We went all the way almost to the border of Congo. 5 hours of driving like a maniac on a road in the middle of the night. It was something that you shouldn't do in a place like that. We needed to get where we were going. And then another hour and a half on a dirt trail. And then we end up, there's a little tiny path, and we turn onto this path, and the forest opens up into this magnificent, I can only call it Eden, okay? I've never seen a lawn in Africa. And here we are in the middle of the bush, and some guy had planted this huge lawn. He built this giant sanctuary. And there were just acres and acres of fruit trees and vegetables that had been all companion planted, and it was mesmerizing. And I said, I gotta find out who's responsible for this. So we go to this little mud hut, this little mud house, and we sit down, and this little unassuming man sits down at the table. And he says, I want to show you my children. And he has a picture of 5 children who are now adults on a mud wall. He goes, this one's a doctor, this one's a lawyer, this one's a dentist, this one's in med school, and this one's in some other profession, a pharmacy school. And I'm like, how did he do that? And he says, you're going to love this story. He says, I found a book. Have you ever heard of that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Amazing.
And I'm like, yeah, I read it. I like it. Yeah, it motivated me. He says, I found a copy of that book. And we're talking out in the middle of nowhere, all right? And he says, it motivated me. And I'm like, yeah, I can tell. Anyway, he goes to breaking down this story and talks about how God ministered to him through that and began to change it. It was breakthrough understanding, okay? Began to change his mentality. And he says, I put together some bricks. They dig bricks there. They dig the mud, and then they burn them. And then, you just dig a hole, and then you burn them, and then you build a house out of the bricks, okay? He said, I built a 3-room, he calls it a house, but it's not a house. It's like 3 little closets, right? But people live in them. And he said, I took the rent, saved up all the rent. I didn't spend anything. I saved up all the rent, and then I built 3 more rooms, cash. He says, then I saved up all the rent, and I built 3 more rooms. Then I saved up all the rent, and I built 3 more rooms. He says, I've got 20 rooms, and I'm renting 20 rooms. And he says, I'm making X amount of money off of that. He says, I built the sanctuary, I built the church, I did this. I was able to send my kids to primary and secondary school. We taught them, we taught them the Word of God, and they excelled in their class. They received scholarships to the university. And it's all entrepreneurialism, okay? And he says he was motivated out of that book. And of course, he's a man of the Word. I forget how many churches he was overseeing. He was so highly respected in that whole area of the country, and was working in relationship with the bishop that we were working with. But anyway, I just thought that was a brilliant story. We want to try to get it on film so that we can bring it back and share it. But those principles transcend culture.
Yes.
And, you know, here we are in the land of much opportunity, and sometimes we just kind of kick it along and like, well, whatever. You know, and here's a guy that's literally living hand to mouth, growing beans and papayas and things like that, that has sent all 5 of his children to university, and they're all standout people, and they're all exemplary citizens in the nation, and they carry a lot of influence in that place. 2 more. Every sacrifice is a seed. We need to understand it's all a seed. And patience keeps it in the ground, right? That's right. And you know, that was the message the Lord had been giving me over the years there. Just know that it's in the ground, the seed's in the ground. And it's going to bear fruit. It's coming up. Leave it there. Don't try to dig it up. Don't. Huh?
I said patience is the ground.
Patience keeps it in the ground. Yeah. So out of this last journey, what we got to see was what we did was not wasted. You know, it didn't go by the wayside. It didn't look like we wanted it to look. It didn't pan out like we wanted it to pan out. But God's using it.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's some big exponential things that are able to be apprehended here in the near future. And the last point I want to make is this, that if it's still breathing, it's not dead.
Come on.
Yes. Amen.
It's not dead.
Come on.
Now what we did was we were able to go, we were able to cross back over into the region that we did a lot of work in. And there are some opportunities there for us, you know, but the whole time I felt the Lord saying, I've already moved you into another place. I've already moved. Let somebody else handle this. There's a lot of people working in the field. He said, but I'm situating you in another place for another thing, and this is time for it. You need to go for it. So it might not look like we want it to look, and it might be on life support, but if it's still breathing,
Yes.
Yeah.
don't kick dirt up. Okay.
Yeah, very.